Good evening and welcome back to Midnight Movie Club and my review of The Headhunter. Now, The Headhunter is not a new movie at all by any stretch of the means, but it did just come up on my Amazon Prime today as I was scrolling through looking for something to watch, and I did hear about it a couple of years ago, so I thought I'd give it a bash, and I'm really happy that I did, so I want to review it and talk about it with you all here on the channel. The Headhunter did originally come out back in 2018, but it's now sitting there on Amazon Prime, so if you've got a Prime membership, definitely go check it out. It follows a medieval warrior whose gruesome collection of heads is missing only one, the monster that killed his daughter. The Headhunter was directed by Jordan Downey, who also co-wrote beside Kevin Stewart, and the film stars Christopher Rye and Cora Kaufman. It only clocks in at about a 72-minute runtime, something like that, so it is a pretty easy digestible watch that you can get through without much time invested into it at all. So if you do have some spare time here or there and you're a lover of like fantasy medieval horror, you definitely should check this one out. The storyline itself is very simple and it's very easy to follow. It's a revenge movie about this medieval warrior who wants revenge on this monster that took his daughter from him. He basically lives out on the countryside on the outskirts of this kingdom that we never really see. We get glimpses to the castle and stuff like that, but all we really hear from them is this horn, and when that horn is sound, it means there is a monster afoot near the kingdom, and the headhunter then goes out to hunt it. So he's basically killing these creatures for this kingdom, keeping the kingdom safe and keeping the creatures and all these monsters in the woods surrounding it at bay, but really he wants that one monster that killed his daughter. The film is very slow at the start, but I think it really works to the film's advantage. With it being super simple and done on a very low budget, they managed to create something that's honestly, it looks way higher budget than it is. They made this for like 30 grand US dollars, which is just absolutely insane to me, because at the start, it could easily be like an episode of Game of Thrones or something like that. It literally just looks like one of the knights watch out over the wall, looking out for wildlings or something like that. The production value on this is insane. But it does start pretty slow, but I was still invested due to the set design, the locations, the very simple yet, effortlessly beautiful cinematography, the costume design, the practical effects, the makeup. The main character himself, his face, it's got these little scars and bumps and bruises on it, and you can tell he's got stories to tell. He's been through the wars and he knows what he's doing, and his costume itself just looks so badass. And when he's fully suited up, I really loved the look of him. He just looked so cool. I really wanted to see him in action more. We don't see too much action as it was done in a budget. We can't see, too much human on monster action. They hide a lot of stuff in the shadows. They're very smart in particular with their lighting, but it all does really work. I love how his helmet almost had like a Yautja Predator design to it. I don't know if anyone else thinks that, but to me, it definitely looked Predator inspired. And there's definitely a few moments in this film that were inspired by Predator, which, gave me a grin. I was really happy about that. But honestly, I can't talk enough about the costume design and the practical effects. The heads that he plants up in his wall, they all look so cool. One of them is a werewolf. If you've been on the channel for a while now, you know I love werewolf movies. And that werewolf design in that head looked so cool. I would have loved to have seen him battle that werewolf. But sadly, a lot of the time when he goes out to find these creatures, we only see the aftermath, of what has happened. We don't actually see the fight itself. But the way they film it, it makes it very intriguing, because you hear what's going on and it kind of lets your imagination fill in the blanks. And I actually quite like that, because we see so little throughout the first half of the film. Once we do get to the final act and we do see a little bit more monster action, it does make it hit home that much harder. And even though the first act is just full of this warrior going about his day-to-day life doing these mundane tasks, they are filmed and edited together in a very interesting way, and absolutely every single little detail that is shown in this first half of the movie does come up again in the final act and pay off, which means you weren't sitting there watching it for no reason at all. There's lots of little things that they do and set up that pay off later and that are very smart, and then you realise why they spent so much time setting it up in the first half of the film. I also really liked how they teased at like a bigger universe. He's got this book that's full of like monsters that he flicks through quickly, and you see a few monsters here or there and kind of crude drawings of, you know, myths and stuff like that, and it just sends your mind ablaze. You really start thinking and, you know, imagining up all of these monsters in your head, and sometimes not seeing the monster is even scarier because what you think the monster is way scarier than what it actually is. There are some scenes that are very tense as well. I never felt too worried for him, as I knew that we had to come up to this climactic moment with the monster that killed his daughter. But throughout the film, there are some very tense scenes. There's one scene in particular that I thought was really awesome, where we actually see his POV through his helmet, and some of the frame is obscured by that helmet and blurred out with blackness of his helmet as we just see through the eye sockets. And I thought that was really well done. It's almost like when you're watching a horror movie, you might cover your face or something and, you know, it makes it less scary, but here it made it more scary because you couldn't see the full picture and you couldn't see where this thing in the shadows was going to come out from. I thought that was very cool, and there was just all round some really nice smooth cinematography and some really, really lovely drone shots. Very, very nice drone shots, very nice landscape shots of this warrior traversing the terrain, and I loved how they actually made the terrain fight against him as well. It showed, how he had to deal with the terrain, not just the monsters, which I really liked, because a lot of films do get caught up in the human on monster aspect of it and forget about the environment and how what part that can play during, you know, a scenario like this. And here they actually showed what the environment can do and how much it can hinder you and how much it can aid your foes. One thing that was absolutely brilliant about this film, and probably one of the main things that makes it look this good, is the lighting. There's parts where he's in the middle of the forest with his torch, you know, his lit up torch of flame. His flame torch, there you go, that's what I was trying to say. And that's like the only light that's on him. There's lots of practical lights used, lots of candles and stuff like that. Moonlight and stuff like that, and it all looks very good. And I loved the parts where it was just complete blackness around him and he was only lit up by the flame of his torch. I thought that was very well done, and they made the film look more expensive than it was down to this lighting, and they hid the monsters in that lighting very well, which just made the practical effects look even better than they probably were. There was one little bit in the final act though where light seemed to come from nowhere. All of a sudden there seemed to be a light source in this cave when there wasn't one before, and that was a focal point because his torch was going out and he was trying to frantically get it back on. But then it seemed for like convenience sake that there's suddenly moonlight in the cave. I don't know if it was maybe dawn or something like that, but that wasn't specified, and that was a little bit annoying. But apart from that, the lighting in the film is absolutely fantastic. Everyone involved with this production clearly knew what they were doing, or clearly just has a natural ability and talent, as this thing looks so much higher budget than it is. I can't stress that enough. The film obviously is very light on dialogue as it only follows one character. He doesn't really have any interactions with people. The only interaction he really has is with a skeleton, which is quite cool. It's a cool little interaction that builds the world more. And it was just one of those films that was much more show instead of tell, and I really appreciated that. I would say it's even more of a character study about how this guy, you know, is dealing with his grief and he's taking it out on these monsters. You know, it's all that parallel similar to like I Am Legend. Is he really the monster? You know, stuff like that. And in the end, you know, I'm not going to spoil it or anything like that, but I thought it was a pretty decent ending, and one that I didn't really see coming. It done a few things different from your typical tropey revenge flick, and yeah, I really enjoyed it. I would really like to see the filmmakers behind The Headhunter get a higher budget and, you know, make an hour and a half to 2 hour movie about this, few more characters in there, and actually show more monster fighting instead of us just hearing about it or seeing the aftermath. I think that would be very, very cool, because this universe, this world that they seem to build ever so slightly throughout this runtime, it seemed to be very, very interesting. And, you know, there's even dragons. We don't see them, but we hear them and we see their shadows and their silhouettes and stuff like that. It's very cool, very ambitious, and I still can't believe that they accomplished this on the budget they did. The sound design as well is very nice, and the score is fantastic. A lot of the time in lower budget films, the sound design can be very poor. Like, instead of a branch, you know, snapping far off in the distance, it sounds like it's right on top of the character. Whereas here, no, he's sitting in the woods. If he hears something snap or a bush move or something like that, it does sound like it's far away. And yeah, so they really hit it out of the park with the sound design, all the monster sounds, you know, the crunching and the squelching of flesh, blood and bone. It was all very well done. But yeah, the score that was composed by Nick Sewell is absolutely fantastic, and it really adds to the emotional areas of the film. One of the downfalls I thought was that we didn't actually see too much emotion from the main character, even though his performance was very good. When he was feeling pain and, you know, in pain, he looked like he was in pain. He looked like he was in excruciating pain at certain points during the film, and he did bring good emotion, and he had a very, very good performance. And when so much of the film is focused on one person, you need that actor to bring it. And Christopher Rye, the main character here, he definitely brung it. He killed it in this film. But I maybe would have liked to have seen more interactions with him and his daughter before the movie progressed a little bit further. Maybe more actions of him remembering her as well, so we could get a little bit more empathy for him built up there, but a little bit more of an emotional connection. But it kind of skips over that stuff, and he's just full on like revenge kill mode. It's just very matter of fact. It maybe would have been a little bit better if they could inject a little bit of emotion in there, but the score definitely helps do that. And the score is just epic as well, with all these epic fantasy landscapes. Honestly, if you're a fantasy fan, if you're a horror fan, if you love them both together, definitely check out The Headhunter. I don't know why it took me so long to check this one out. I really liked it, even though I would have loved more action from it. To see it, I can understand why they couldn't achieve that on this budget, but what they did achieve on this budget was absolutely fantastic, and every single person involved with this project should be extremely, extremely proud, and I'd love to see them do more in the future with an even bigger budget. So with all that said and done, I'm going to give The Headhunter a 4 out of 5 rating. As I've said before, I really enjoyed this one, and I think a lot of you here on the channel will as well. Just don't go in expecting full-on creature feature action. You do get some of that, but a lot of it is very simplistic. You know, it's very show not tell, and some in certain points hear not show, if you know what I mean. But I really do think you'll get something out of it and enjoy it, and it's an easy watch. It's not too long, doesn't drag or anything like that. If you've got some spare time, I reckon it's worth a watch. If you have seen The Headhunter, please do let me know in the comment section down below what you made of it. And if you enjoyed this video, then please do leave it a like. As always, thank you very much for watching, and good night.